There's no need to drive around South Florida wasting valuable time looking for a new or certified pre-owned Acura. Go to the #1 volume sales dealership in the Southeast United States. Craig Zinn's Acura of Pembroke Pines. Purchase with pace and space in a dealership tailored to your needs. From home buying to providing that personal touch. Contact the 2020 Satisfaction Award winner Craig Zinn's Acura of Pembroke Pines. 888-776-5123. That's 888-776-5123. Or visit them at 15601 Pines Boulevard in Pembroke Pines.
And good evening. It is Tuesday, 8 p.m., which means the Squared Circle Digest is on the air. Talk a little bit about pro wrestling. It's going to be an abbreviated show today. I need to be somewhere at 9, so I'll be up talking probably till about 8:35. So it'll be about a half hour, 40 minutes. But, of course, you can go back and watch it on the YouTube channel here at the Big O Radio Show, or check it out on wherever you download your podcasts. So we're going to get started, and WrestleMania, the card starting to take shape. More was added last night, as a matter of fact, might as well get into Sami Zayn and Kevin Owens. They have come together once again as brothers, as it's being reported now on the WWE Raw show. And, you know, I really felt they could have probably prolonged this a little bit more. I would have even made it, take it up to the Friday before WrestleMania. Leave it up in the air. Leave it up in the air. The Usos against Sami Zayn and a partner of his choosing. Everybody knows it's going to be Kevin Owens. But man, you could have worked that. If you heard, you heard that pop if you watch SmackDown, if you've seen it on the social medias. Could you imagine if that was the night before WrestleMania and they had, kept it going even longer? But again, the feel-good moment did happen for Sami and Kevin, and now they will team up, and they will be heading to WrestleMania to take on the Usos. Cat for Life, what's up? What's going on? And Alpha Academy is no more. I don't know if it's no more. They are listed as being in the the Fatal 4-Way tag team match at WrestleMania. They are slated to be in that. I don't know what's going to come of it after watching last night, what they did. I thought maybe they pulled the wool back over and was going to put Alpha Academy back together. And then, of course, you had Otis leave during Gable's match. And Terry, what's up? And so that storyline will go, I guess, into WrestleMania. In the Fatal 4-Way match, they had the Street Profits. It's Braun and Ricochet. You had the Alpha Academy, and then you had Viking Raiders. Those four. So out of those four, you knew Alpha Academy wasn't going to get the victory anyways in the I think they're calling them showcase matches. So So interested enough to see where they go with that. I can't wait. I want Otis to come back as a comedic act. It's the way he was brought in. It's kind of the way he's been this whole time. I think that is, you know, perfect level. Otis is perfect. Austin Theory Montez Ford match last night was awesome. I thought it was great too. Honestly, I thought the Raw was pretty good. I mean, for the lately, and again, this has been since AAA. It's getting a little quicker. It's not lagging as much, and I think it's because they're allowing more wrestling. The Austin Theory Montez Ford match, I think, went 3 segments. By segments, I mean commercial breaks on the TV. So they're allowing these guys to actually work, which you're getting to see a lot more of what Austin Theory can do, what Montez Ford can do. Johnny Gargano. I get it. You can't put Braun Strowman in there against Omos for 3 segments. I get that, but they are allowing the guys that can work and make it work, do it now. And the program seems to be flowing to me, again, because I used to want to poke my eyes out by the end of hour 1.5, hour 2, maybe on Raw. And I was just like, oh man, here we go. Another hour of this. And now it's pretty good. I actually watched the Raw last night. I watched the whole Raw. It's the first time I've done that in quite a while. I usually DVR it. I might pick it up late and watch till the end and then rewatch, or sometimes I might not watch it all, or I'll hear about a segment on social media and I'll go back through the DVR real quick and watch it and everything. But I sat through the whole 3-hour Raw because they had Roman on there as well. And the whole thing with Sammy and Kevin. I mean, those two, the Bloodline storyline has got me watching more and tuning into more of a Raw and SmackDown. Speaking of the Bloodline storyline, last night Cody Rhodes, Roman Reigns did meet face to face in the ring, and I thought it was pretty interesting. Roman threw out you were Stardust and you ran. You went and you started a company, couldn't get over, so you ran. You finally started getting over and your body quit on you. It was very cool. And then he jumped in, Cody just jumped right back at Roman and was like, when I beat you, you're going to lose your family. He's like, Jay's going to leave you. Jimmy's going to leave you. Solo's going to leave you. And then, and then he's like, and then Paul Heyman will just going back to being an advocate. So you'll be, how do you say you'll be a Roman with no reigns. I know a chief with no tribe, and there was one more. And when they went back and forth, it was really good, man. Wasn't really necessarily worried because I know Cody can cut promos and I know Roman can cut promos, but I'm worried about the physicality. I don't want them to get physical. And last night they worked it perfect. Roman, it was almost like in like 8 Mile, at the end of 8 Mile when Eminem does all his stuff and the guy can't talk anymore. Roman was sitting there like, wanted to say something, couldn't come up with anything, just threw the mic down and left. And it left Solo in there. And now and what's interesting is I had one thing I want to talk about, because I've been asked on here a few times who I thought Cody's first opponent would be. And after watching last night, if in fact he does go over and wins the titles, I have 2 people in mind. One is with the company and one is currently not with the company, at least that I know of. And I'll go with the one not with the company. In a podcast the other day, and again, I don't know when the clip came out or the talk about it came out the other day that I saw. He was talking about Matt Cardona. When Matt Cardona went to AEW, he was like, I'll come in, but I'm not wearing the Nightmare Factory. I'm not wearing the Nightmare stuff. And Cody alluded to that and was like, here it is, my real life friend. I'm the guy that brings him in. And he's like, I'm not going to do that. And then basically Cardona worked the 2 shows. He teamed up, I think with Cody, and he teamed up with Dustin, and then he was off of AEW. Chelsea Green was rehired by WWE. There's been talk of Matt Cardona coming back in. So why couldn't Matt Cardona just show up on Raw after WrestleMania and be the opponent for Cody Rhodes. That was one. Number two, after what happened last night, I can see Solo also being possibly. The only problem I have with that is you're pushing Solo up into the main event with Cody. And I don't know that draws right now. I don't know. I'm not saying Matt Cardona and Cody draw either, by the way. But I think there's enough buzz around Matt Cardona and the independents that if he was to show up and maybe attack and lay out Cody, you would have some fans jumping on it and the buzz of Cardona to build something up. So those are my two possible opponents for Cody after WrestleMania. And again, maybe it's Roman again too as well. I don't see that being ran back though that quickly. Let's see what else we got here. Solo feels like he'll turn on Roman. It could be, but then you're not going to have Roman's on that part-timer schedule. I don't see Solo and Roman doing business right now. I just don't see that happening. And maybe he does, but I don't know what you do with Solo after that if he turns on Roman. You have him fight against the Usos, because I don't see Roman coming back to just be without the titles, to be like, okay, let me come back and fight Solo. I just don't know that would be a program. That's the only reason I will say that ultimately I think in the long run, maybe as the bloodline starts, thinning out, but I don't see that happening right away. I could see possibly, Solo not beating Cody and Roman berating him to the point to where he finally just snaps and not turns on Roman, but just goes after Roman. I can see something like that more than just Solo quickly turning on him and costing him or something like that. Let's see. When KO and Sami Zayn hugged it out last weekend, it broke the internet. It 100% did. It 100% did. And I was talking about at the beginning is I wonder if they could have, kept it going a little bit longer, and on March 31st, that SmackDown, Sammy announces his partner and it'd be KO or something. If they could have kept it going, how much more they could have built it up, because that place, it not only broke the internet. If you heard the SmackDown, they actually had I think the cancellation on whatever camera they had it on, and it went silent for a moment because of the eruption that they had right at the beginning. Let's see, Sean, it seems like if Cody wins, Roman might take time off. Yeah, I mean, and much deserved. I mean, there was two guys that really, during the COVID era, Drew McIntyre, Bobby Lashley during the COVID era, because of Roman with his, the leukemia and things like that, really didn't do a lot of until COVID was, more or less, started going away. Then Roman came back in. But, you had Bobby Lashley and Drew, and then Roman. They really took, the WWE through that COVID era there. And then you had, of course, Kevin Owens jumped in there a little bit. Sammy did a couple little things there. Brock showed up once in a while. Goldberg showed up once in a while. But the three that, and Drew has taken some time off. Lashley has been in and out recently. Looks like now he's out right now. We'll have to see what they do with him because of the injury sickness to Bray Wyatt. I don't know what's going on there. Supposedly they've taken that match off. We'll see if it doesn't get added later or something else like that, but we shall see. Coach AJ, do you think the torch is being passed from Cena to Theory? I don't necessarily know if it's a torch, but I think Cena passed the torch to Roman. Roman's kind of going to hand it to Cody now, if that's the way they go with it. I mean, it will boost Theory. It'll give Theory a good rub to to beat John Cena. I don't know that, again, when you say passing the torch, you think of Cena to The Rock. You think of things like that. I don't necessarily know that Theory's becoming the face of WWE. And that's what I mean by passing the torch. I think he's given him a good rub and that allow him to elevate, but I don't necessarily know that here's the ball, run with it, because I don't think he's the face of WWE right now. Now, ultimately, again, can they build Theory from that? Hell yeah. Cruz Reeves, what's up, buddy? Let's see, Terry. AJ Styles been off TV for a while. Yeah, he broke his ankle at a house show. And that's why he's out. He broke his ankle leading up. Because remember, I think ultimately, I'm not sure how they're going to work it out, but I think it was going to be AJ and the Good Brothers somehow working against Judgment Day or somewhere along there, because I'm not sure how they were going to do. Maybe it's going to be the Good Brothers against Dom and those, but we'll see how they go. The Theory versus Cena match is the start to probably a long, interesting program. I don't know if it's going to be an interesting. Do you mean a program between Cena and Theory or Theory in general? I think this is going to be the build to Theory becoming that face of the WWE. I think the Theory program, yes. Theory versus Cena program, no. And I'm not sure where you're heading there, Cruz Ruiz, as far as when you're saying be a very long, interesting program. A long, interesting program for Theory, yes. I don't know that Cena's going to be that involved with Theory. And he's still okay. Perfect. Good deal. Where are the Good Brothers? Good Brothers have a deal worked out with WWE. If they're not being used, if they are not booked for that show, they're not coming in. Can they come in? Yes, they can bring them in, but they have a deal worked out in their contracts to where if you're not using us, then they're not going to be in town. So we'll see how ultimately it works out. Again, I think there was a plan written up to WrestleMania for AJ and the Good Brothers, and when AJ got injured, it kind of took the Good Brothers out of the planning. So I would say, the Raw after, and the fact that they weren't in the 4 showcase tag team match tells me they've probably taken them out of everything leading up till the Raw after WrestleMania, and then you rotate them in and see where it goes from there. Cat for Life talking to Cruz. What do you think about Logan Paul, Seth Rollins? I think that match could steal the show. I'm not gonna lie, that match is gonna be very interesting to see those two go, because I know Seth can go and Logan Paul's shown that he can go. That match is gonna be very interesting to see where it goes. Cat for Life says, I heard the stage is set for Bad Bunny and WrestleMania. Well, Bad Bunny is hosting Backlash in Puerto Rico. They're doing the next pay-per-view in May. The SmackDown before and the Backlash pay-per-view are going to emanate from Puerto Rico and will be hosted by Bad Bunny. So will Bad Bunny show up at WrestleMania? Possibly. The Miz is the host of it, and we'll see if he doesn't have some A-listers come out and possibly be Bad Bunny, promote the Backlash. And again, it's in Puerto Rico. Could it possibly, I don't know. I can't compare it to WrestleMania because the matches aren't going to be the same. But Puerto Rico is a vacation spot. You can go for a SmackDown and a pay-per-view Friday and Saturday and fly out Sunday. So, it could be some package deals. So they could be at WrestleMania 100%. Possibly see that. Any chance Orton and Riddle make a comeback at WrestleMania? I'll never say never, but, and again, what I read about Orton was he had not a setback with his back, but it's not rehabbing the way it is. And the fact that maybe that story got out there is true, that he's probably going to show up at WrestleMania, because there really hasn't been a lot of mention of Randy Orton lately. Riddle put out a couple Instagram posts to his girlfriend about staying with them when he went through what he went through and things like that. He was in rehab. But we'll see, man, because usually when those things get it's to bring their names back into the spotlight a little bit so that they can make, a debut, possibly. I will never say never, but I don't know that this WrestleMania needs that. Again, the Raw after WrestleMania, you bring back Orton, you bring back Riddle, you bring in the Good Brothers. I don't know about AJ's ankle where it stands. You bring back AJ, and again, because they're you got to remember WWE year is set from the Raw after WrestleMania leading into WrestleMania. It's kind of how they book everything out. So you'll start seeing people possibly appear. You'll see some of the NXT guys come up. You'll see, kind of like a reset of what's going on after WrestleMania. So we'll see what goes on the Raw after WrestleMania. That's why it's one of the most watched Raws of the year. He said, Cruz Reed says, Logan Paul is interesting. He's got talent, a good heel. Seth is dynamic, probably the best pure worker. That might be, yeah. I think it's set up as on paper. Now, Logan Paul is a decent heel. I think he runs into the thing where he always feels he has to talk. Like last night when Seth is coming out, he's like, "Oh yeah, keep talking about, sing his song, do all this stuff." That's the indie stuff. That's to me, that's not, the WWE stuff. And again, I get it. WWE's trying to kind of change their persona and things like that, but to me, it kind of comes off, I don't know, just kind of just when Seth, Rollins can step in the ring and just hold up a microphone, everybody goes crazy. Now everybody, Miz hand goes up, everybody gets louder because it's where you're training them. When you do little things, they react. That's how the WWE crowd and fan base, you can condition. They're conditioned. They understand how, as they watch the show on WWE and they watch it on TV, when they go to the show, they understand, when the Miz says, my hand goes up, your mouth goes shut, we get louder. You almost condition the crowd on what to do. Now Seth Rollins walks in, he starts waving the microphone, the crowd's already going crazy. And man, it's one of those things. It's really, we talked a little bit about it today, when O was talking about emotionally invested. That's what happens when a lot of this stuff goes on. You get emotionally invested in the product, in the character. Sami Zayn right now. Hell, 6 months ago, he was thrown in the bloodline because they didn't know what else to do with him. And look at it now. It's crazy. Anything on the Bray situation? Nothing new that I heard. I don't think Uncle Howdy's storyline is gaining traction. Well, again, I thought they gave him too much creative control. I thought some of the stuff was off the rails. Yes, during COVID, the cinematic matches worked. I believe they should have kept some of the cinematic matches for the Bray Wyatt character. I think that works better than what you're doing. But also, you can't have, every week you showing up and just, you sitting there and then all of a sudden it goes black and then that's the end of the segment. It gets old a little bit, and I don't think that it was catching on quite the way that maybe some perceived. Again, Vince McMahon came back that one Raw. I know there was a little bit of rift between Bray and Vince, which is why he left when he left before. So does some of that have some of that to do too? I don't know, but and then Cruz, I disagree. I don't think they should have recreated Bray completely. I don't think you need to do that. I like the fact they had two. They had the Bray Wyatt, but I think they should have brought the Fiend back as well. I think where you started going a little off the rails is when you had Bray, and then you're bringing in Uncle Howdy, and then supposedly they were building to bring in, somebody dressed as, I don't know their names, so I apologize, the pig character. Then there was supposed to be the rabbit character. Like they were going to actually be, legit wrestlers and things like that. I thought that went a little bit off the rails. That was a little bit off of the rails. Let's see. Sean, do Sammy and Kevin win the titles? I believe they have to win the titles at WrestleMania and then have the Usos chase back after him. I mean, I think that the grandest stage of them all, not saying they have to, lay the Usos out and everything else, but I think to continue, they have to get a win, right? KO was left laying. Sami Zayn took on Roman Reigns left laying. They have to be standing at the grandest stage of them all with the titles, whether it's a cheap win or however else, because then you can continue on. I'm not saying they got to put the Usos through the ring and pin them and job them and everything else, but I believe they have to win to keep them somewhat strong and keep the storyline going. Let's see. Cat for Life says, ever since we spoke last, Sean, I'm very curious to see where the Intercontinental Championship tournament goes moving forward. The Intercontinental Championship tournament. Let me see here. Oh, now it's Cat for Life. What they're gonna do is it's Sheamus and Drew McIntyre and Gunther in a 3-way at WrestleMania is how they did it. It broke down, and after the tournament, Sheamus and Drew McIntyre pinned two of the opponents. Then they ended up fighting each other, but the Imperium broke it up and ruined the match. So then they threw everybody in there. So Cat for Life also said AJ Styles, he broke his ankle. That was the last I heard. Gilbert Martinez, what's up? And then Frankie Fresco's asked, will Goldberg sign with AEW? Goldberg is a free agent, my man. Bring on the sparklers and smoke, and let's bring them out on AEW. Why not? Let's do it. Is it possible Usos win, Roman loses, created a who's the tribal chief now scenario? Even if the Usos win, it's 2. So does Jimmy and Jay say they're better than than Roman Reigns? The problem and again, the only thing I see an issue there is where do they go with it then? Because if you're saying Solo's turning on Roman, I mean, ultimately, yes, the bloodline's going to have to probably, fall apart. Unless maybe The Rock is going to be at a Survivor Series or SummerSlam or Royal Rumble or something else. Because there's 3 other main pay-per-views besides WrestleMania. Yes, WrestleMania is the one you want to have, but if Rock's schedule doesn't permit, do you keep it rolling to where, and then maybe when The Rock shows up, that's when you see Solo and them turn on him and have The Rock be, and then Roman goes away for a while. They have a few ways of doing this stuff, man. And as Gilbert Martinez says here, I think Cody Rhodes will be a turncoat. I could ultimately, after last night hearing him say, and Paul Heyman again will become an advocate. The one thing I thought of is this. Brock Lesnar had the belt. Who took the belt off Brock? Roman Reigns, right? Who'd Paul Heyman go to? If Cody does take the belt off Roman, could Paul Heyman have a play in this as well? So that is something that, again, this whole storyline has played out almost perfectly for WWE. And again, not sure if they thought everything would, play out necessarily everything to a T, but right now, every option's open, right? You can see every option on the table with the way everything's playing out. The way Solo looks at Roman, the way Solo looked at Cody, the Usos against KO and Sammy, the way he talked to Jay last night, right? The way he was upset with Jimmy for, not holding down the bloodline business with Sammy and KO. Him sending them back to the plane last night and saying, go back to the plane, it's fueled up, or Heyman said it to him. And not you, Solo, you stay here. Roman wants to talk to you. The way now, remember, bloodline business used to be everybody was done, right? We're going to the ring. We're taking care of bloodline business. Now he wants to talk to Jay by himself. He talked to Jimmy by himself. He's talking to Solo by himself. But again, is Paul Heyman pulling the strings? He sent them out to the plane or whatever with all the seafood last night. He told Solo to go in and talk to Roman. Was Roman there? There's a lot of things that can be played out here, man. There's so many ways that they can go with this whole thing. And they could even go with ways that you don't even see yet. There could be people coming in that you don't know of from the Samoan dynasty. There could be, I mean, you never know. You never know. Some interesting things that could happen. All right, real quick, I want to jump over onto AEW, some stuff there. You talked about Goldberg, possibly a blood match with Moxley. Yeah, dang, why not? Let's start it. Open the show. Open the show. Moxley, Goldberg. Why not? One of the things, and then also somebody asked me earlier in the show about the Ring of Honor pay-per-view. It's actually March 31st in LA, WrestleMania weekend. They're running it there. And right now, nothing has been issued. I know they were looking at Eddie Kingston against Claudio, but also Roosh has now thrown his hat in the ring, I guess, and however you want to look at it. So we'll have to see how the Ring of Honor, it's called the Super Card of Honor. That's going to be WrestleMania weekend, also in LA. So you're going to have a lot, and this happens all the time too, by the way. A lot of different events happen during WrestleMania. Independent shows, GCW has a card. A lot of happenings go on around the Los Angeles area because of WrestleMania weekend. So you're going to have a lot of, if you live in that area, I recommend. When it was down here, I mean, I went to every one of the events I could, especially when you have the fan fests. And I'm not talking about the WWE Fan Access. I'm not talking about that one. That one's there, but you'll have a lot of the old school wrestlers. Sometimes they'll do it by themes. They had the Extreme Hardcore one here. So you had all the ECW guys. You had, there was one for Championship Wrestling from Florida where they brought a lot of the guys back from there. Those are good events to go to if you're nostalgic about wrestling. I mean, if you only know the product of today, then probably not something you want to go to. But man, when you get to go there, and a lot of them just they open up and they talk to you. And again, then I was also working, so the conversations were a little bit different then, but they took time with every fan, and fans would be like, "Oh, I remember when you did this," and and everything else. And it's one of those times in where you just sit back and you just sit there and just soak it in, man. Just soak it in. Paul White, right? Paul White, it's supposed to be Paul White versus Kenny Omega versus Moxley versus Goldberg. Man, dude, that'd be the most watched episode. They throw that on Rampage probably, or you know what? Put it on Paul White's Dark Elevation, right? Isn't that the one he announces on? Throw that match on Dark Elevation there on YouTube. See what happens. One of the things I found interesting since we're talking about AEW, and again, when I poke and I hit on it, it's not the performers in the ring. Those men and women bust their asses and they're top-notch athletes and everything there. But I do not understand why AEW feels they have to go. I had it on my thing and I forgot. It was AEW announces a dream match, Tony Khan. AEW dream match. But your casual wrestling fan probably doesn't know El Hijo de Vikingo. And I probably said that wrong. I probably butchered it because I don't say it as quick as I should have. But most wrestling fans won't know who that is. And they're bringing him in to fight Kenny Omega. This was a match that's supposed to happen. I don't remember if it was supposed to be pre-COVID or right after COVID, but there was an issue with it. But now it's going on, and then they kind of throw it out on social media. Why aren't vignettes created for this? Why don't you make the right buzz for it? I just think it's like, hey, here's a dream match, and you throw it out there, and yeah, it's a dream match for your hardcore base of fans that know that, but your casual wrestling fan is like, who? And they've done it a couple times. They brought in Commander is another one, and actually Commander had to come in because they couldn't bring in Elio the Vikingo before. So they brought in the commander for the ladder match. You know, and again, nothing around, even if it's right before or right, you know, maybe after the first match, you throw that up there so people can understand who it is and get a little more excited about it. The casual wrestling fan can. It's great to throw it out on your social media. It's great to get that buzz created by the, you know, your hardcore fans. But for the casual wrestling fans, the ones you need to pick up, again, you have your base set up. You're always between 8 and 9. Do you want to get to the 1 million consistently? Then you need to add casual wrestling fans. That's the one thing that I feel is missed. And I get it. The hardcore AEW fans are going to be like, oh, we don't want the casual wrestling fans. But man, if you want this company to grow, you need to get those casual eyes over to the product so they can see what the hell's going on over there. Because they're conditioned to what WWE is. And there's nothing right now in AEW where you go, okay, let me switch over there. What are you switching over to? Watch Moxley bleed? What, you need blood samples? Look, I hope CM Punk comes back. I do. FTR apparently is back. For how long, I don't know. Excuse me real quick. All right, I'm back. Sorry about that. Just knocked everything over on the desk, but hey, it's all good. Sting also making a return too. I mean, but also the other thing is, do you get up for AEW anymore? And I'm talking to not the AEW diehards. I'm not talking to AEW diehards. If you're a casual wrestling fan or you like pro wrestling, I'll watch AEW. I will. But if I have something else to do, I can DVR it. It's not must-see TV. It's not. Last night, Raw, to me, you know, again, not saying the whole 3 hours of Raw was must-see, but I wanted to see Sammy and KO. I wanted to see Roman and Cody. I wanted to see, you know, those things happen there. What on AEW right now do you have to tune in to see? You know, and I mean, and I get it. They've got their diehard fans, and they are diehard. Just like WWE's got their diehards. WWE can do no wrong. AEW can do no wrong. AEW can do no right. WWE can do no right. Yes, they're all there. But if you want to get off of that 800-900 number, I mean, you've got to. What happened to the storytelling aspect? And again, what is it? March 31st, they're going to have the All Access show come in. I just, what are you going to show me that we haven't seen? You're going to show me what, Ruby Soho and them getting into a match afterwards? And I think that's where AEW has maybe lost a little bit. And again, I get it. They're young. They're 3 years in. But after that 2 to 3 year mark, where I think maybe Tony Khan probably had everything already kind of laid out for the first couple of years of like what the main programs were going to be, since then, it's fallen off. And I'm not talking about the wrestling. I'm not talking about the in-ring has fallen off. I'm talking about the storylines to drive me to watch the program. And the numbers show it. For the matches they're putting on, they should be getting better numbers than what they're getting. And with the action in the ring, the result of what they're seeing in the ring should be getting more eyes on that product. And it's not happening. Because again, it goes back to what we talked about earlier. emotionally investing into that product. Who on that show? Wardlow had me emotionally invested until you freaking jobbed him out to Samoa Joe. For whatever that was. I don't know if he had to go do a TV. I don't know if he was going somewhere else or what the plan was there. But you were building Wardlow up and then you just slammed him into a damn brick wall. Let's see. I have to tune into Sky Blue versus Tony Storm match. Of eye candy, man. That goes back to but Tony Storm and Sky Blue can both work, by the way, too. That almost goes back to the old Attitude Era when they just threw people in the ring. They just threw women in the ring. And then you had, Lita, Trish, and them started turning things around. But before that, it was bra and panty matches every week. Hey, throw them in some pudding this week. Okay, there we go. But that's not enough to keep eyes. That to me is why all these, like when you make the announcement of dream match, you're in desperation mode. You're in desperation mode. Hey, watch this week because this is going to be on. And then you're going to try to one up it the following week. Well, then by the time you get to your pay-per-view, why am I going to pay $49.99 for something I can have watched or I have watched all the way up? And I get it. Their last pay-per-view was great. The action in the ring delivered. For the $49.99, probably delivered more than the $49.99 price. But the storylines leading up to it, trash. And that's where, to me right now, and again, WWE's got some trash storylines too. I'm not going to sit here and tell you that, they're all, but the thing right now is the bloodline, the Cody, they outland everything there that it kind of covers everything else up. Because they can do 2 segments, 3 segments, 4 segments, and you don't even realize it. Let's see. AEW is all about action in the ring and no storylines. That's fine. If you're running a indie company and you're running every weekend or every, you know what I'm saying? But for a company that's got to build, and I get it. I guess Warner Brothers is happy with the numbers they're doing. But happy for how long? And how much money are they going to make on TV deals? And, again, I'm not talking about the diehards. The diehards are always going to be there for AEW. Diehards are always going to be there for WWE. They're always going to be against AEW and always against WWE. But if you want to grow your product, you have to make things work. Let's see here. Sean, I think Tony's. The problem is Tony Khan's a fan himself. And I get it. He's turned himself into more of a business aspect of it. But sometimes I feel like some of the stuff that he writes and puts on TV is because he wants to sit back there and watch it. If this is such a dream match, why not build up to make it a pay-per-view? Why are you putting it on Dynamite? Why don't you put a storyline together and draw out Kenny Omega versus El Hijo de Vikingo all the way out to the next pay-per-view? Why just give it for free? Just, hey, why? Because he wants to see it. Sometimes I feel like that, again, if you fall in love with your own product, when you're doing stuff, you have to do it for your fan base. You have to do it for, the people buying it. If I'm making something because I like it, if nobody's buying it because they don't like it, do I keep making it? And that's where sometimes I feel like that's where AEW is right now. They had the first 2.5 years written out. Kind of, again, things change, injuries happen, some things get swapped around. But their storyline ultimately was Adam Page finally winning the title. That was where the crescendo of all the AEW, the writing and everything was built up was for that moment, up to that point. He had the first 4 AEW champions already mapped out and how it was going to go. Once it passed there, now it's been in limbo. Because leading up to that point, there were storylines involved in things. There was the Inner Circle, Pinnacle. There was Cody with the Nightmare Factory. There was Cody not ever being able to, when MJF went heel, not ever being able to fight for the title, which I thought was the dumbest thing they ever did. But, and no, Frankie, I'm not saying he's not a beast. But it's like saying, hey, AEW just signed 2 guys, Brock Lesnar and Goldberg. Tomorrow night they fight each other on Dynamite. What? Why? One, we've already seen they got booed off WrestleMania. But 2, why would you do that to put it just on? Build it up. Bring them in to fight some other people, some other matches, and then have Kenny Omega, confront him or something to where you built up something to get to a pay-per-view to make me pay my money. No story in wrestling is just Cirque du Soleil. It was fist. You're right, Cruz. You're right. It's a male soap opera, man. I mean, that's what this is. And that's why, whether you, like it or don't like it, with WWE, they went away from, the former wrestlers became, not that they didn't, some of them get into the creative area, but they became agents, whereas the writers came from TV. Because they understood how to write episodic TV. For this 10-minute segment, we need this to do what? And that's also why, some of the WWE, they don't get that creative freedom because they need this segment to do this, because 2 weeks from now, we're going to go back to what that did to continue the storyline. And whereas in AEW, a lot of guys and women have creative freedom, it's harder to write week to week because what if somebody doesn't do what they're supposed to do? How do you fix it? And Cruz, you're probably right. WWE on some things are too produced, and AEW is underproduced. And what's funny? The one thing that's probably not overproduced. My apologies. I started working out, so I'm real thirsty these days. The one thing that's not overproduced and they've allowed more input is the one thing that's working. The bloodline. It's Paul Heyman with input. It's Roman with input. It's, I don't know how far Sammy and KO are involved in that input there. Cody's got input. When you look at all that's the one thing, again. And kudos to, Triple H, whoever it is right now running it, they've allowed it to breathe. They've allowed that to breathe and become what it is. They haven't stopped it yet. There hasn't been that brick wall, so we'll see what happens. There's still a lot of tickets available for it. Dude, Frankie, those prices, and again, man, and nothing against the performers, but there's nothing there to draw me to go. There's just nothing there to say, hey, I have to go watch AEW. AEW needs Goldberg. I don't know if they need Goldberg. I mean, they had CM Punk, and it wasn't. And look, for everything, talking about the CM Punk things, they still weren't getting to 1 million when CM Punk was there. His segment would boost them over, but then people would tune out. So I don't know. Goldberg, Kenny Omega? I don't know, man. I don't know. I really don't, man. I think Goldberg's a little too high on himself to do a job for Omega. I mean, again, they're paying him, so maybe whatever. But we'll have to see. All right, guys, I got to start wrapping it up here. Get a couple more questions in here. The Ray and Dom storyline, super funny. I think it's great. And then the fact that he said, I think on the March 31st edition of SmackDown, Ray's going to be there with the family, of course, because it's right after SmackDown, they go into the WWE Hall of Fame. And he said he was going to ask his mom for his dad's, if his dad could get his balls back out of her purse and accept his challenge. So it's going to be interesting to see how that goes down because again, WWE usually doesn't use, the Hall of Fame per se as a thing for um, extending angles and things like that. So hopefully they don't do that, but hopefully it'll happen on SmackDown, and then they let the Hall of Fame be the Hall of Fame with Rey Mysterio being inducted. But let's see where that goes. Kenny Omega is one of the best wrestlers in AEW. He's probably one of the top wrestlers when healthy. When healthy, he is probably one of the best wrestlers, not just in AEW, in there. Rhea Ripley, take on my heart, dude. I can't wait till she beats Charlotte. Oh, I hope they put her over on Charlotte. I really hope they do, and see where that goes from there. I think I got everybody so far, but I want to thank everybody. Nicholas Colmenares, Cruz Ruiz, Frankie, Alex. Let me just make sure I got everybody. Cap for Life, of course. Frankie, sorry I didn't see the super chat. Well, actually, I read it. I'm sorry. I didn't thank you for the super chat, Frankie. I appreciate you. Let's see. Terry. Who else we got? Gilbert. Hopefully I didn't miss anybody here. Dad, appreciate you, Terry. Always, man. I appreciate you guys. Make sure you let people know about the show, man. Let's get it, make this interactive. Let's have great conversations. Again, this ain't a pro AEW. This isn't pro WWE. Hell, hopefully soon I'll have some of the independents on here as well. I'm talking to a couple people now, especially South Florida. If you're somewhere else and you know of independent wrestlers that want to get their name out there, shoot me an email. You can do it at the Big O Radio Show at yahoo.com. Just include wrestling on the thing, or you can hit me at my social medias at Sean_Stanley11. That's on Twitter and Instagram. And shoot me their info and let me get hooked up with them, and we will get them on here and do some more interviews and everything else like that, because this is a show for wrestling fans by wrestling fans, because you guys help me produce this show as well, because most of the time I go off your questions with a couple of the notes that I get from the news that are happening, because this is a wrestling talk show for fans by me, a fan and a former independent pro wrestler, the Sean Allen. And of course, I end every show in the words of the great Gordon Soley. So long from the Sunshine State.